Started. All right, so if I can get a reader, the first thing I want to do is open up with Genesis chapter 11, verse 6. Genesis 11 and 6. Genesis
You know
11.
I'd help out if I wasn't driving.
I'll go ahead and read, man. You ain't got to read. Genesis 11 and 6. And Yahuwah said, behold, the people is one, and they have all one language, and this they begin to do, and now nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do. Right here is the first time where the Most High actually is giving us a drop of understanding that when mankind comes together, they can pretty much do anything that their mind is put to do. Mankind, when they come together, can do pretty much anything their mind is put to do. We'll put this in this terms. When he tells us that 12 men almost turned the world upside down, that's telling you when the Most High cries out and he says to us, I want men everywhere to lift up holy hands. Listen, he wants us to come together. He wants us to be unified. Just as the Most High wants us to be unified because he understands the power that comes in unity. Come on, y'all. Then also the adversary, if they unify, then they become a powerful entity. We see this clearly with the LGBT community. The LGBT community are on different sectors. Lesbians are lesbians, gays are gays, bisexuals, transgender, and the queer is the queer. But they came together and they started a movement. Come on, y'all. And because of this, they're making things happen that we can't make happen. They're getting bills passed that we can't get passed. They're getting laws extended when we can't get laws extended. They're getting the media to portray their agenda. Come on, y'all. But we can't get our agenda portrayed. Hear me out on this. So with this thought being brought forth, there's power in numbers. There's power in people coming together, having one mind. There's power in people becoming unified. With that, I want to go to Genesis chapter 6 and 5. Genesis chapter 6 and 5. In Genesis chapter 6 and 5, it reads, and Elohim saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. This is exactly where we are as a people today. They're finding more ways to do evil. They're calling good evil and evil good, bitter sweet and sweet bitter. We're in a generation now where everything is being turned over. Here we go. The world view today, how the world views things, how the world sees things, how the world is portraying things is found in Isaiah chapter 47, verse 10. So we're going to jump over to Isaiah chapter 47, verse 10. Isaiah chapter 47, verse 10. It says, for thou hast trusted in thy wickedness. Thou hast said, none seeth me. Thy wisdom and thy knowledge, it has perverted thee. And thou hast said in thy heart, I am, and none else beside me. What we're dealing with right now is we're dealing with a nation that has this as their motto. We're dealing with a nation that believes that they can trust in their wickedness. We're living in a nation that believes that no one sees what they're doing to the point that they'll display it right in front of you on a TV screen. We're living in a nation that has had wisdom and knowledge, but it has perverted them. We are living in a nation that says in their heart, there is none other beside them. That is how this world views things. That is how this nation views things. It believes that it can continue to make people do what they want them to do. They believe that they can continue to put mandates upon people. It clearly tells us in Isaiah chapter 10 he talks about it. He says, woe to them that decree unrighteous decrees and with grievousness prescribe it. We're in a generation right now that is putting mandates on people and not giving people a right. All right, so what I want to do now is get into 1 Kings chapter 3, verse 12. 1 Kings chapter 3, verse 12. In 1 Kings chapter 3, verse 12, it reads, behold, I have done according to thy words. Lo, I have given thee a wise and understanding heart, so that there was none like thee before thee, neither after thee, any arise like unto thee. This is what the Most High had told Solomon. He told him that there will be nobody before you nor after you that will have, come on, y'all, understanding heart. Not only an understanding heart, but a wise heart. What this nation is seeking after right now is a wisdom and a knowledge. But we understand that not all knowledge comes from the Most High. So what we're dealing with is a generation that is forging itself into becoming like the Most High. When I say forging themselves and becoming to the Most High, we're getting to the place where now we are telling people that we can create fetuses in them and we can make the children have the color of hair they want, the color of eye they want, to be having the ability to be good at sports or to be wise with architect. We are now creating a generation where they say you can have it the way you want it. All you got to do is ask for it. We're getting a generation that is dependent upon medicine. You can go to any other country, and the one thing that a country will say is the first thing they notice about America is that they got a pill for everything. And in Revelations, we hear that with sorceries, they will become cunning and they will slay the people with sorceries. That word for sorceries is pharmakia, which has to do with the pharmaceutical industry. What we're dealing with right now in this generation is they've had us so embedded in believing that we need medicine and that we have to run to a doctor that we don't know how to suffer. We're in a generation now that when we get a headache, we can't just go through a headache. We got to take a pill to subside the pain. We're in a generation where we're not equipped for war. Come on, y'all. We're in a generation where we're not equipped for battle. We're in a generation where we're not equipped to think for ourselves. Now everybody's asking Google what the answer is. We're in a generation that is not equipped, come on, y'all, to have understanding because they told us that that's how you do math. That's how you do math. We're in a generation now where we're not equipped to think for ourselves. It started with Legos. They would tell you before you would have a box of Legos and you could build what you want. Now you buy Legos and they'll tell you exactly what you can build with the Legos. We're in a generation where they're taking us away from being free thinkers. They're taking us away from being able to seek out knowledge to where we can only get the knowledge they want. That's where we're getting into when we're looking up our knowledge on the internet. We understand that there's this thing called net neutrality. And net neutrality is back in the day when something was in the internet, when it was released, it was forever there. It couldn't be taken down. But net neutrality began to create a clause in there that says if you buy the specific site, that the owner can pull it down. But that's the only way it can happen. So now they've created a clause to where they're taking things down off the internet. And this was launched and released because of what happened with WikiLeaks. When WikiLeaks released the stuff about the government, that's where you'll get the information about Project Paperclip, Project MK Ultra. That's where you'll get the information about Project Operation High Jump. All these different operations that were leaked out, they created this thing called Wikipedia. So now your mind tells you when you hear wiki, it's open site. So that means that automatically people can change and put whatever they want in there. It's not evidence-based research. So what I'm trying to get to is we're in a generation now where we say, hey, what is evidence-based research and what is not? I want to go into Ecclesiastes chapter 8 and 17. Ecclesiastes chapter 8 and 17. Somebody gets it before me, they can go ahead and read it. Ecclesiastes chapter 8 and 17. It reads like this. Then I beheld all the work of Elohim, that a man cannot find out the work that is done under the sun. Let me read that again. A man cannot find out the work that is done under the sun. What is science trying to do? They're trying to explain what is being done under the sun. Come on, y'all. It says, because though a man labor to seek it out, yet he shall not find it. Yea, further, though a wise man think to know it, yet shall he not be able to find it. We're dealing with a people that is refuting to hear what the Most High is saying. You cannot understand the things that he does under the sun unless he reveals it to you. You cannot understand the deep mysteries unless he reveals it to you. You cannot understand what he has in plan down the line unless he reveals it to you. Now, clearly in Daniel, he lets us know that knowledge will increase. Come on, y'all. But what we're dealing with is a generation that is gaining knowledge, but it's not a knowledge of the Most High. The more knowledge they're gaining, the further away from the Most High they're getting. We're now in a place where we got so much knowledge that we can say a man that feels he's a woman can now be a woman. We are so far from the Most High now that we got so much knowledge that now we can construct the DNA structure of the man to become a woman by taking estrogen pills. Come on, y'all. We are dealing with a generation that has knowledge, but not a knowledge to Yah, not a knowledge that the Most High gives, but a knowledge of this world, which is of Hasatan. We are dealing with a nation of people that have knowledge, but not according to his mysteries. So now it says at the end of that, it says, though a wise man think to know it, yet shall he not be able to find it. So he thinks to know it, but he really can't find it. But now what we're dealing with is we're dealing with a people that are called soothsayers. We're dealing with a people that project information onto us. And because we don't do our homework, like he says in 2 Timothy 2:15, study to show yourself approved, we automatically buy into the soothsayer. Come on, y'all. Because we don't seek out the Most High, we automatically buy into the soothsayer. But the Most High gives us an antidote to keep us from this shell shock. The Most High gives us an antidote to keep us from being bamboozled. Come on, y'all. The Most High gives us an antidote so that we don't have to drink this juice that they're giving us. And that is found in Proverbs chapter 18, verse 7. We're going to go over to Proverbs chapter 18, verse 7. Though a wise man think that he can find it, he cannot. Proverbs chapter 18, verse 7. In Proverbs 18 and 7, he says, a fool's mouth is his destruction, and his lips are the snare of his soul. We're dealing with the fact that a fool's lips is what causes him the issues he's dealing with. This is where we get that saying, open mouth, insert foot. So what I want to do now is, we got the understanding of that. I want to understand, okay, so these people are saying all these different things, but they're getting us caught up in things that they can't control, such as when the COVID vaccine first started out, they were actually showing us how the disease was affecting the people. But now they say their worst strand is there, but now we can't find the data because the data is not being displayed. So now I want to go to Proverbs 18 and 17. Understanding this, let's find the antidote. It says in Proverbs 18 and 17, he that is first in his own eyes, he that is first in his own cause seemeth just, but his neighbor cometh and searcheth him. We are supposed to come and search them. Someone will present a case and make it to be right, but it's our job, come on, y'all, to search him out, to see whether what he says is true or not, to see whether what he is saying is of the Most High or not. He clearly tells us, my sheep hear my voice and they follow me. So now what I want to deal with is, we see that mankind has turned so far from the Most High that they've gained all this knowledge that is the knowledge of Hasatan, that we know Hasatan is out to do what? Kill, steal, destroy. What they're doing is they're trying to take away marriage as the Most High had brought it to be. A man shall leave his mother and father and cleave unto his wife. What y'all bring together, let no man separate. But they're trying to separate it. They're saying now that a man can be a woman or a woman can be a man. We're dealing with them manipulating the genes in human anatomy. So what I want to bring from this point is getting into how Babylon established its kingdom. I'm going to say that again. How Babylon established its kingdom. Babylon did a specific thing that caused them to have power over all the other people. Growing up, we heard this term. Knowledge is what? Work with me, y'all. Knowledge is what?
Power.
Knowledge is power. We grew up being told that knowledge is power. So this comes back from King Nebuchadnezzar. Let's go to 2 Kings chapter 24, verse 14. 2 Kings chapter 24, verse 14. We grew up hearing knowledge is power. There's nothing new under the sun. 2 Kings chapter 24, verse 14, it says, well, let's start at verse 11. And Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came against the city, and his servants did besiege it. And Jehoiakim, the king of Yehudah, went out to king of Babylon, he and his mother and his servants and his princes and his officers. And the king of Babylon took him in the 8th year of his reign. And he carried out thence all the treasures of the house of Yahuwah and the treasures of the king's house, and cut it in pieces, all the vessels of gold which Solomon, king of Israel, had made in the temple of Yahuwah, as Yahuwah has said. And he carried away all Jerusalem, and all the princes, and all the mighty men of valor, even 10,000 captives, and all the craftsmen and smiths. None remained save the poorest sort of the people of the land. This right here is the art of war. King Nebuchadnezzar, through his seers, was giving knowledge from Hasatan. And their thought process was, if we take all the knowledgeable people away and leave only the poor, those who have not knowledge, then we can gain control over the people. What are we doing today? We're allowing icons, celebrities, and all these people constantly say they sold their souls to Hasatan. They sold their souls to the idea that Hasatan gave them. That for money, they will stand up and be someone that will play the fiddle and cause the children to dance in the street and to go their way they want them to go. They aligned themselves and gave themselves to an allegiance to do what, come on, y'all, the ones that are, I'm gonna call it like this, they call them the Illuminati, but we're gonna call them the ones that are of dark understanding, those that are retaining their understanding from Hasatan. They have now been given position to use these celebrities and artists and people that have money as tools or pawns. So now what they've done is they're collecting all the mighty men. They're collecting everyone that has the ability to gain the people's trust or gain the people's attention. They have now sold themselves over to the idea to do whatever the agenda is. So the agenda-driven people are now carrying the message through these, their pawns. So now that we've got an understanding of that, I want to now get into technology that was in the ancients. Technology that was in the ancients. And I want to start with 1 Maccabees chapter 13. 1 Maccabees chapter 13. 1 Maccabees chapter 13, I'm going to start at verse 28. 1 Maccabees chapter 13, I'm going to start at verse 26. 1 Maccabees chapter 13, starting at verse 26. It says, then sent Simon and took the bones of Jonathan, his brother, and buried him in Modin, the city of his fathers. And all Israel made great lamentation for him and bewailed him many days. Simon also built monuments upon the sepulchres of his fathers and his brothers, and raised aloft the site with hewn stone before. Moreover, he set up 7 pyramids, one against another, for his father, his mother, and his 4 brothers. And in these he made what? Cunning devices. Listen, y'all. He had set up an alarm system in these pyramids. So when you look at Egypt, and they show you back in the day where if you went into the pyramid, there was all these, I mean, if you go look at it, it's like technology. Like if you touched a treasure or artifact that was in there, that all of a sudden the door would close and the water would raise. Has anybody else ever seen anything like this, video-wise?
Yes, I have.
Anybody else?
Only in the movies.
Well, yeah, exactly. Movies. Have you ever seen a transgender before in movies before they was actually here on Earth? Yeah.
Yep.
Have you ever seen robots serving humans on a movie before you've seen it on Earth?
Yep.
So what's going on is movies are the blueprints.
Yep.
So what Simon did right here is Simon set up, it says it clear as day. It says Simon set up cunning devices. He set up a system that if somebody tried to get into any of the tombs of his family members, they would die. It says that upon these pillars, he made all their armor for a perpetual memory. Come on, y'all. He made up armor on it for a perpetual memory, meaning he made it to where it wouldn't be, come on, y'all, destroyed. He then said, and by the armor ships carved, that they might be seen of all that sail on the sea. So then what he put on there to keep it, he also put displays on it so that other people would see it. But if they dare go in it, they will die. It then says This is a sepulchre where he made molded, and it standeth yet unto this day. All right, now I want to jump over to chapter 42. Or no, I want to jump to 41. First Maccabees chapter 13, 41. Still dealing with Simon. Thus the yoke of the heathen was taken away from Israel in the 170th year. Then the people of Israel began to write in their instruments and contracts in the first year of Simon, the high priest, the governor, and the leader of the Jews. Yahudians. What happened right here? Simon now is being elevated because Simon is crafty, because Simon got understanding, because Simon sees in another dimension that the other people can't see in. And usually when people were able to see in other dimensions before, it wasn't because they were taking shrooms or some kind of drug that allowed them to tap into what they like to call the third eye. Come on, y'all. It was none of this. It was the understanding and wisdom that was given to him by the Most High. Knowledge and wisdom was given by the Most High. Knowledge and wisdom gave people the ability to understand what to do, when to do it, how to do it, and why to do it. How else can you destroy an Amorite army with a piece of barley? How else can you make a whole army in fear for their lives by breaking pots? Come on, y'all. Unless the Most High did it, it would have never happened. Then it goes on to say, in those days, verse 43, Simon camped against Gaza and besieged it round about. Isn't it funny that they still up there fighting over Gaza Strip? Come on, y'all. It says he made also a engine of war. Did y'all hear that? He made an engine of war. Simon now created an engine. He created something that had the ability to slay the enemy without man having to do anything. Engine. It says Simon created an engine of war and set it by the city and battered a certain tower and took it. And they that were in the city, and they that were in the engine leaped into the city, whereupon there was a great uproar in the city. Isn't it funny that everybody wants to talk about the Trojan horse? And the Trojan horse, the enemies were in the Trojan horse. Y'all know that story, right?
Yep.
But nobody ever talks about Simon and his engine, his battering ram that he created that worked off of kinetics and busted down a tower. And then after the tower was busted open, it lifted up like a tank and let the people out to destroy the rest that were in the city.
Wow.
Now what I want to do is I want to go to 2 Chronicles chapter 26 and 15. 2 Chronicles chapter 26 and 15. Somebody get it before me, they can read it. Second Chronicles chapter 26, verse 15. It reads like this. And he made in Jerusalem, well, let me start at verse 14. Hold on. Let me jump it up to 12. Hold on. Let me jump it to 11. 2 Chronicles 26:11. Moreover, Uzziah had a host of fighting men and went out to war by band according to the number of their account by the hand of Yehiel and the scribe Messiah and the ruler under the hand of Paniah, one of the king's captains. The whole number of the chief of the fathers of the mighty men of valor were 2,600, 2,600. And under their hand was an army 300,000 and 7,500 that made war with mighty power to help the king against the enemy. Uzziah had a squad. Then it goes on and says, and Uzziah prepared for them throughout all the host, shields and spears and helmets and habergeons and bows and slings to cast stones. You see that? He then gave them all weapons of war, right? But here's the kicker part. He wanted to make sure they went with a bang, because look what happened in 15. And he made in Jerusalem engines. Come on, y'all. He created engines, just like Simon.
Wow. Wow.
He says, invented by the cunning men. Invented by what? Cunning men. People that had understanding. It said to be on the towers and upon the bulwarks to what? Shoot out arrows and great stones withal. These machines were created to shoot by themselves. No one had to be up there. We want to talk about AI and smart stuff to the point that I'm gonna get to the point where I tell you about an arrow that is able to travel through the air and pierce somebody. Come on, y'all. They had that back then. My guy had machines up on towers and bulwarks when he had a giant army, to the fact that when they walked in, the machines went out by themselves and started shooting arrows and throwing big stones and smashing them before he even went to war with them. It says,
That's deep.
and he made in Jerusalem engines invented by cunning men to be on the towers and upon bulwarks to shoot arrows and great stones withal. And his name, what? His name spread far abroad, for he was marvelously helped till he was strong. What's going on here? He was given a group of people that had insight that created things. This right here is where America's at. This right here is where our nation is at. Verse 16. But when he was strong, his heart was lifted up to his what? Destruction. For he transgressed against Yahuwah, his Elohim, and went into the temple of Yahuwah to burn incense upon the altar of incense. What did he do? He stopped following protocol. He threw the Torah behind his back. This nation today is doing the same thing. When the scripture clearly tells us that a man shall not wear that which pertaineth unto a woman because it is an abomination, but yet we got men wearing women clothes. Come on, y'all.
And vice versa.
Huh?
And vice versa.
Yep.
Vice versa, yeah. When it tells you in scripture, but the thing is, we're dealing with the men. That's where I'm at. When we're talking about this right here, that a man shall not lay down with mankind as with womankind is an abomination. We clearly are taking on the very thing. It says his heart was lifted up. What's another term for your heart being lifted up?
Pride.
Pride. The LGBT community calls their movement what?
Pride.
I mean, come on, man. We're dealing with where
Yeah.
men think
Gay
that they are
pride.
wise, but they are not. They become fools.
Right.
We're dealing with the same things that they were dealing with. So here we got Uzziah, where now he's been giving a group of men to him under his ruling that gave him the ability to create machines that would begin to shoot arrows and shoot big stones without a man having to operate it, to the point that his heart got lifted up because he thought he was untouchable. He's the only one that had the smoking gun while everybody else had spears.
Wow.
Ezekiel chapter 4, verse 2. Ezekiel 4 and 2. I'm going to start at verse 1. Ezekiel 4 and 1, and then we're going to go into verse 2. It says, thou also, son of man, take thee a tile and lay it before thee, and portray upon it the city, even Jerusalem, and lay siege against it, and build a fort against it, and cast a mount against it. Set the camp also against it, and set battering rams against it round about. What's funny is I don't lean too much on this, but if you go to the Dua Rims, which is the transliteration by the Latin Vulgate, they call that battering ram engines. It's funny that everybody that was associated with the Most High had the ability to create certain things, and how mankind has now took it upon themselves to grab this group of people and basically make them become sellouts, just like they did with the, come on, Nabi Balaam. Ain't that what he did with him? He tried to hire him. We're dealing with a generation of a bunch of sellouts. People that have been given gifts and have become sellouts. People that have been given information and have become sellouts. It's funny because even Shaw himself said that they were those who became sellouts, who loved the world more than the Most High. What we're dealing with is a generation of people that have been given information for specific reasons, and now the Most High, still being in control, sees them becoming sellouts. No different than, come on, y'all, what happened with Judas? He couldn't keep his hand about the purse. He wanted to keep on taking money. He was greedy. That's these greedy heart people. That's these peoples whose stomachs are their powers, their God. We're dealing with a people that can never have enough. A generation that says more, more, more. They're like leeches. They're never satisfied. It says man's eyes are never satisfied, neither is she full. We're dealing with a people that cannot be satisfied because they aren't with the one that can satisfy them. Then I want to go to Ezekiel chapter 21, verse 22. Ezekiel chapter 21, verse 22. Again, it reads, at his right hand was the divination for Jerusalem to appoint captains. Did y'all see that? Let's jump back to verse 20. A point away that the sword may come to revive of the Ammonites, and unto the Judah and Jerusalem the defense. For the king of Babylon, come on, y'all, stood at the parting way, at the head of the two ways, to use what? Divination. That is what this generation is doing. They are using divination. Divination under the term MK Ultra, television, that tells you the vision. We watch TV programs, we watch TV, and what happens is our minds are desensitized. They tell us their vision. This same divination, because they didn't have TV, it was the people they put in front of them, their soothsayers, that told them information that wasn't true. But because people would not search out the matters, he says, if you want to find rest for your soul, go back to the ancient path. That means build yourself an altar and cry out to the Most High, no matter where you're at. Because they were not seeking the Most High for themselves, but hanging on every word of those that were placed in position above them, they were then given the juice, the juju, and they believed everything they were told. So it says, he said the head of the two ways to use divination. He made his what? Arrows bright. He consulted with images. He looked in the liver. At his right hand was the divination for Jerusalem to appoint captains, to open up the mouth in the slaughter, to lift up the voice with shouting, to appoint battering rams, which funny because once again, the dual rams says engines. It says they would use engines against the gates to cast a mount and build a fort. And it shall be unto them as a false divination in their sight. What are we dealing with? An illusion. He was going to give them an illusion that made them believe that they were being defeated. It then says, to them that have sworn oaths, but will call to remembrance the iniquity, they may be taken. Therefore, thus saith Yahuwah Elohim, because you have iniquity to be remembered, and that your transgressions are discovered, so that in all your doings your sins do appear, because I say that you are come to remembrance, you shall be taken with the hand. The Most High now is bringing judgment upon the people. There's this operation, it's called Operation Blue Beam. And it has to do with the retina. And it has to do with when we are getting too much the retina that is destroyed. That's why when you are on your phone, there's this thing called a blue filter. Or something, or things on computer, but it stops that screen from destroying that part of your retina, which if you look up this operation, it actually talks about in Project Bluebeam how they would actually make people believe that certain things were happening that were not happening.
Yep, I looked it up.
The same thing happens with, have you ever seen somebody that's in alcohol detox? Work with me. What's the alcohol effect?
What's the alcohol effect?
What's the alcohol effect?
The brain, the mind, the eyes.
But what's it affect before that? The liver.
Oh, the liver, yeah.
Because your liver produces enzymes. Come on, y'all. Isn't it funny that when you're dealing with this guy, he got them drunken because it says in verse 18, I'm sorry, in verse 21, the head of the two ways of divination, he made his arrow bright and he consulted with the images. He looked in the liver. Get that, y'all. When you go through alcohol detox, you see things that aren't really there.
That's true. Yes. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Here we're dealing with, once again, this stuff, man, they knew way back then. And today, unfortunately, because we can only learn what they teach us, so they think, we are not subjected to have knowledge in certain areas. Come on, y'all.
Right.
I want to go to chapter 26 now. Ezekiel chapter 26, verse 8 through 9. Ezekiel chapter 26, I'm starting at verse 7, and then go through 9. For thus says Yahuwah Elohim, behold, I will bring upon Tyrus Nebuchadnezzar, king of the Babylon, a king of kings. Come on, y'all. What? It says that in Proverbs, he talks about how the Most High created all things, yea, even the wicked for the day of wrath. The Most High allows the enemy to have this knowledge so that he can use him the way he wants to use him. He is the one that blows in the coals that creates the instrument of destruction. Most High is in control in spite of how things are going. Then he goes on to say, Nebuchadnezzar, a king of kings from the north, with horses, with chariots, and with horsemen and companies and much people, he shall slay with the sword the daughter in the field. And he shall make a fort against thee, and cast a mount against thee, and lift up a buckler against thee. And he shall set what? Engines of war against the walls. And with his axes he shall break down thy towers. Wow. So now Nebuchadnezzar was winning because of what? Engines. Uzziah was winning because of what? Engines. Simon was winning because of what? Engines. What we're dealing with is technology. These same engines are seen in 2 Samuel. Let's go to 2 Samuel chapter 20. 2 Samuel chapter 20. Get there before me, you can read it. 2 Samuel chapter 20, and we're going to go to verse 15. 2 Samuel 20 and 15. 2 Samuel 20 and 15 reads like this. And they came and seized him in Abel of Bethmaachah, and they cast up a bank against the city, and it stood in the trench, and all the people that were there in Joab battered the wall to throw it down. How do you think they battered the wall to throw it down? With the engines, with the technology, y'all. All right, so enough of that. Now what I want to do is get into Jeremiah chapter 5. Jeremiah chapter 50. Can somebody go ahead and give me Jeremiah chapter 50, verse 9? Jeremiah chapter 50, verse 9. I'm going to read at the same time, just need one.
I'm driving. I can't.
All right. All right, I'll read it. So good. Jeremiah chapter 50, verse 9. That's what he says in Jeremiah chapter 50, verse 9. It says, for lo, I will raise and cause to come up against Babylon an assembly of great nations from north countries, and they shall set themselves in array against her. From thence, come on, y'all, she shall be taken. Their arrows shall be as mighty expert men, none shall return in vain. Did you guys hear that? Who's he going to set up? What nation is he going to be bringing all these nations against?
Jerusalem.
No. Where they coming against?
Babylon.
Huh?
Babylon.
Babylon. Isn't it funny that the whole time we've been reading, Babylon was a champion? Come on, y'all. I need somebody to understand. Babylon is falling. Babylon's going to fall, man. Babylon in all its sorceries is going to fall. Babylon in all its divination is going to fall. Babylon in all its mandates is going to fall. I need somebody to understand that Babylon can't run you forever. You need to understand who is this king of glory, who is strong and mighty. And though right now it seems like they're winning because we got more men wanting to be women than we got men wanting to be men. Come on, y'all. Right now it seems like we got more women that want to be independent and don't want to have a head over them. Come on, y'all. Right now it seems as if we got children that want to be unruly all around us. Come on, y'all. This will not be forever. But there's something that I want to pull from the text, and I want you guys to see. It says, for lo, I will raise and cause to come up against Babylon an assembly of great nations from north countries, and they shall set themselves in array against her. Then shall they be taken. What are we talking about? They're what? They're arrows. Sit on that for a moment. These nations are going to have arrows, are they not? Everybody see that? They're going to have arrows. You hear that? It says their arrows shall be as mighty expert men. I want to hold that for a moment. We're not talking about the people that are shooting the arrows. They're going to be mighty expert men. He says the arrows themselves are going to be like mighty expert men. You guys hear that?
Missiles.
Some may say missiles, maybe missiles. But I'm thinking it's like an arrow that when it's shot, it's like a tracker and it goes and it hits the person. Because
like those
being,
smart bullets.
huh?
Come out like those things, those smart bullets they talking about creating.
Smart missiles?
No, the smart bullet. Where you hit it, where you aim at a
Yeah,
target and it
that's
knocks it
exactly
on it.
what it is. Yeah, smart bullets. Yeah. So what's going on is, if you look up the word for expert, man, it's a word called sakal. Okay. The word for expert in the Hebrew tongue is sakal, right? That word sakal, in the definition, it says intelligence. These arrows were intelligent. They were like smart arrows. It says these arrows were like mighty expert men. It says none shall what? Return in vain. Wow. That means wherever they were sent to go, they completed their mission. There was not one arrow that missed. So with all that being said, technology has been around for a long time. Technology has been around through the form of divination. Technology has been in the form of soothsayers. Technology has been in the form of weapons of mass destruction. It's horrible, y'all. It's horrible. What you guys' thoughts on that? Real quick. About these weapons of mass destruction. People don't understand that back then they had the ability to do the things that we now are trying to have the ability to do. One more scripture, Ecclesiastes chapter 9 and 18. Ecclesiastes chapter 9 and 18. We understand that we're in a generation that is transgressing Torah. We're in a generation that is backslided, revolted, and gone. We're in a generation that have stopped up their ears and made their necks stiff. We're in a generation whose back is bent. We're in a generation who walks crooked. Come on, y'all. Ecclesiastes 9 and 18 says, wisdom is better than weapons of war, but one sinner destroyeth much good. I said, wisdom is better than weapons of war. Wisdom is better than weapons of war, but one sinner destroys much good. We're in a generation right now where they're trying to subject us to decrees and things that they're saying. But in the midst of all this, we must take a stance. For Yah I live, for Yah I die. We must take a stance in spite of what's going on around us. If everybody else wants to bow down, we ourselves will not bow down. Just like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They weren't willing to bow down to the image that King Nebuchadnezzar had brought before them. But everybody around them was bowing down. But they themselves wouldn't. Their response to the bowing down sounded like this. All y'all can and shall. And even if he doesn't, we're not going to bow down to you. What I'm saying today is we got to get this holy boldness in us to the point where we too will say, we will not bow down to the system and what they're trying to get us to bow down to. We will not bow down to the image of what they're trying to tell us we must bow down to. We will not bow down to what they're making us to believe is right. Because our Yah can and shall, and even if he doesn't, we're not going to bow down to that. 1 Corinthians chapter 16 and 13. There's a statement that is given unto men. He tells us to watch and stand fast in amunah, or belief. Quit you like men and be strong. It's time for us to understand that we got to make ourselves, brave. We got to make ourselves strong. We got to make ourselves unmovable, unshakable, to the point that we won't bow down. Because we clearly know that in Ecclesiastes 12 and 13, he says, the fullness of the matter, he says, the end of the matter is this. The whole duty of man is this, to fear Yah and keep his commandments. That ox is what I'm trying to present today. That from the beginning of time, they have tried to get us to bow down. They have tried to get us to give in. But in the midst of all that was going on, just like he talks about in 1 Samuel chapter 22, when David comes out of Gath, it's funny because Gath, the word Gath, if you look that up, it's wine press. David came up out the wine press and he came to the cave of Adullam. And in the Hebrew tongue, the cave of Adullam is justice for the people. Come on, y'all. So he came up out the wine press and came into the assembly of justice of the people. What I'm saying is there's a wine press that is here right now. And the grapes are getting ripe. And in Revelations chapter 14 and 20, we see how the wine press gets trodden down. He says, come out from among them and be separated. The clusters of grapes are wanting to group together, and the little foxes are destroying the vineyards. But we've got to come up out of her. We've got to separate ourselves from it. We are in the world, but not of the world. We got to allow our minds to be focused on him. The mind that is stayed on him will be in perfect peace. That's why if you understand all that is going on in the world and all those that are against us, it would paralyze you. It would cripple you. But when you understand who this King of Glory is, it gives you a strength that no man can give you. Because there is none like him. So I encourage you to continue to press on in spite of what it looks like, knowing that he still is in control, knowing that he is for us. And he said, if Yah be for me, who could be against me? Knowing that he is your rear guard, knowing that he goes before you like a mighty man of war, knowing that he will not suffer his darling until the lion's mouth. Be strong and courageous, ox.